Yes, so I have taken part two different rounds of Write Her Story. Once back in 2020 and then again in 2023. The first one, I was definitely very much at a point in my life where I had been really feeling something stir in me about feeling very ready. I kept saying this sentence actually to a few friends and a mentor of mine about how I was just like so ready to dump the bucket out on the table and kind of sort through. I felt like I needed to sort through something. And that really piqued my interest for many different reasons, but also it just felt very synchronistic in that moment as well. And then the second time, I just felt, after knowing kind of what the whole program was like, very, very curious as far as what a second round would sort of pull up for me, kind of digging deeper, so to speak, on the upon the work that the first round had sort of begun. That's a great question too. Actually, there were some hesitations, of course. And I think like alone the commitment, I think committing to something like that for me was a really big deal. And however, I remember that feeling of really wanting to dump things out and look was just, I was so almost like irritated and annoyed with it. And I really was so almost like desperate to get to work. So the commitment, I think, was, of course, the number one thing for me. And then secondly, I was very curious from the performative aspect, how I would have responded to that. Just being somebody who's been on stage quite often, just throughout like my life and my career, and wondering how one side was curiosity of how that would kind of sort of shift perspective and especially not kind of being in the music scene at all, doing something completely different. But I was kind of hesitant just about the stage aspect and how open I would be and how much I would be able to kind of sort of separate or let go of kind of this identity that I feel like I have built up over decades. I think like number one, I loved, of course, sort of like the creative aspect and the process of writing and it being again outside of sort of a creative corner that I'm very familiar with. That was very exciting. But on top of all of it, I think the community and the circle of women that we sort of all built together through the process was so profound. And I think so much of the sharing and watching and witnessing each person kind of go through the program as well. I could like almost cry. It was really, I think, not only profound, but just an absolute beautiful gift that I take with me as long as I live. So that was another major component was the community aspect. Yes, I mean, there was really a whole lot that happened, especially with the dance piece in the very first round. It was so profound. That experience has carried me into my own like professional life and songwriting and also still sharing the story. That was one major one, I think, was the connection to my body in a way that I have never been exposed to before. And it was quite profound. It really has transformed me in a lot of different ways. And there's been a lot of things too, I think, over the past few years where I continue to process. But from the first round, many different exercises we did, the dancing piece, and as a person who has never really identified ever as a dancer, and being quite terrified, to be honest, about the exercise, just how prolific that was and how much I felt a shift on like very much a cellular level. And that has really transformed the relationship to my body since then. And I even would go as far as to say I think it was the catalyst because I struggled quite a while through the first round about which story to tell. And I remember this experience kind of just catapulted me into sort of the direction that I wanted to go with. And I would even say that it continued into the second round as well. I think a lot has shifted within me. My intuition or my inner wisdom, I feel has really grown in such a way, a living component of myself that before all of this was very much asleep. And I did not realize that was true. And reaching far deeper into myself than I even realized was possible. And I feel like that has given me a sense of really groundedness. And I definitely did not walk into writer story expecting that. Oh my gosh. I mean, I would say run, don't walk. I would really say, like, if not now, when, number one, and I think that it's investing in yourself on so many layers that will echo and you will notice continual parts and pieces still coming from this time that years later, I'm still experiencing, I'm clocking it, I'm marking it, or I'm connecting a dot. It really, it starts a momentum that like it's a really awesome momentum and start it now.
Angel watching over me, this will be my shining hour.